Injury prevention is a major concern when you're picking up a new instrument, and that's especially true for those of us who are learning as adults and those of us who have chronic pain conditions. You've probably heard of the benefits of stretching before, but it's true. It is one of the most important tools in your arsenal to keep your body healthy and pain-free, but it is possible to do it wrong. So in this video, I'm going to explain what stretching actually does, some common pitfalls to avoid, as well as my own post-practice stretching routine so that you can use it too to keep your body feeling good and playing your best. Hey, I'm Samantha, and if you've been watching my videos, yes, today's background is different. I moved since the last one, but today's topic is really important to me because I actually have chronic pain myself, and I have for more than 10 years, and static stretching that we're going to be talking about today is one of the most important tools in my own pain management strategy and helps me feel actually pretty decent on a day-to-day basis. The first thing I want to talk about is what is the purpose of stretching? Why do we even need to do it at all? Well, put simply, when you play the harp, your muscles contract and get shorter. And if you leave them that way, that might be why you feel tight or sore after you practice. After you finish practicing, static stretching, where you stretch and hold a position, lengthens the muscles out again to reverse and balance out all that shortening that happened while you were playing. And it increases blood flow to the area to help those muscles recover after all the hard work they did during your practice session. Now, before we get to the actual stretches, there are some ways that you can do this wrong that will potentially hurt you more than they help you. So we're going to go through a couple disclaimers before we get started here to make sure that you're stretching the right way. Number one, stretch after you practice and not before. I know you want to, I know you do, but don't do it, okay? I'm watching you. Capiche? Static stretching pulls on your muscles, so they need to be warm and flexible in order to stretch safely. Think about Play-Doh, right? If you took a ball of Play-Doh out of the freezer, it's not going to be moving when you pull on it, it's going to break. If you have a nice room temperature warm ball of Play-Doh, you can pull it out, you can spread it out, it's going to be just fine. Same thing with your muscles. If you're not warmed up and your muscles are cold, static stretching may actually hurt your muscles. Number two on our list of don'ts is do not stretch to the point of pain. You should only move to the point of feeling a gentle pull on your muscles and not any further, and definitely not to the point where it hurts. You know, I think sometimes people think that they have to really feel it in order for it to be a good stretch, but honestly, that's not what's best for your body. Just gentle, just a little pull. I'm going to show you some stretches in a minute, and I'm really flexible. So there's a good chance that you won't be able to move as far as I can, and that's totally okay. You've got to listen to your own body to know how far to move. And if you go farther than that, that's just putting extra strain on your joints and your muscles, and that's really not our goal here. Don't stretch too often. Yes, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. As I just mentioned, stretching does put some strain on your joints, your ligaments, your tendons, all that stuff inside your body. You're pulling on it. And doing it too much is going to just create extra strain, potentially extra pain. So personally, I would recommend not static stretching more than about 3 times a day. Of course, every time you got to be warm. And last on our list of don'ts, don't bounce. Hold your position steady for about 30 seconds without bouncing. Okay, we are now ready for the actual stretches you should do after you finish practicing the harp. As I just mentioned a second ago, you should be holding these on either side of your body for about 30 seconds. That said, this is YouTube and no one has the attention span for that. So instead, I'm just going to shorten them for the sake of this video, but you can hold them for longer on your own. All right, so I like to stretch the big muscles first. So I like to start with my shoulders and crossing one arm across my chest and using my other arm to hold it in that position. Again, you want to hold this for about 30 seconds, taking some nice deep breaths without bouncing, but I'm going to just move on. You want to make sure that you stretch both sides. Next, I like to stretch my side. These muscles do a lot more work than you might realize while you're playing the harp. And there's a few different stretches you can do depending on what you're comfortable with. So the first kind of stretch is you can just bring your arms up above your head. I'll squat, I'm too tall for my tripod. And you can just bend from your waist to one side and then the other. Again, only move as far as your body feels comfortable. A variation on this stretch that I really like is if you put your hands on the wall in front of you and then kind of step back and bow forward until you're kind of leaning into that stretch in your sides. You might feel it a little bit in your shoulders. And you can even lean from side to side here. Again, holding on each side for a little bit. This one is a little bit more intense, so if you're feeling lots of stretch from the first one, just stick with that. Next, we want to stretch our chest. These muscles get really shortened as we reach in front of us while we're playing. So for this stretch, you want to use a wall or some other kind of tall piece of furniture, even your harp column if you have a pedal harp. But what you want to do is hold your arm up with the elbow at a 90-degree angle, put your hand and forearm flat against the wall in a straight line from your shoulder, and then you just want to kind of turn away. My husband likes to call this the hey there stretch. I have another chest stretch that also stretches your arm a little bit that I really like. What you want to do is take your arms straight behind you, clasp them behind your back, and kind of pull backwards, pushing your chest forward a little bit. You can stop it here, or I really like to bend forward and let my arms come above my head. Now again, I'm very flexible. If this is too much for you, you can keep it here, or you can just keep it standing. Our hips also do a lot of work when we're sitting there on the bench for hours and hours. Maybe not literally hours and hours. So to stretch those guys, I like to kind of spread my feet far apart. You can't see my feet. You can see my legs a bit more. So to stretch my hips, I like to bend at the hip, reach one arm over the head, bend over one way, and bend over the other way. To stretch the muscles in my tricep along the back of the arm, I'm going to raise my arm up, put my hand behind me, take my other arm, and just press on my elbow a little bit, kind of behind my head. And as usual, we're going to do that on both sides. I don't know about you, but when I'm playing for a long time, my neck tends to get quite sore. So we want to stretch that too. Want to be really careful with the neck. It's quite easy to hurt your neck. So usually I will do just leaning over to one side and the other side. If you want a little more stretch, you kind of can take your hand and just let gravity kind of lean on your head a little bit. You don't want to push really hard. Another variation for stretching your neck is to take one arm, hold the back corner of your bench or your chair, and then look the opposite direction. If you want to make a little bit more intense stretch, it's going to stretch right down here. Just look down slightly. And then one more time on the other side, you're going to grab the back corner of your bench, look the opposite direction, and look down. Now, of course, you've been working with your hands and your forearms for the whole last however long you've been practicing, so we want to make sure we stretch those too. So you're going to reach your hand in front of you, palm facing down, bring your other hand on top, and just bring that hand downwards. Should feel this stretch in your forearm, maybe a little bit in your hand. And again, I'm really flexible at this joint, so your stretch may not look like this. If your stretch looks like this, that's great. Listen to your own body. We also want to stretch your hand the other way and the other side of your forearm. So reach out your arm, palm facing towards the ceiling. Take your other hand and you want to push downwards. You want to make sure you're pushing on the thumb as well in this stretch. One less stretch for your hands. I don't always do this stretch, but if you're finding that this part of your thumb or like kind of along the side of your forearm is feeling sore, you can hold your thumb in your hand and then angle the base of your thumb forwards, right? So hold your thumb, angle forwards, should feel it in here. Now, I like to finish off with just a straight up T pose. This gets your chest nice and open and extended, your whole arms open and extended, and your hands and fingers as well. And then something I kind of like to do is to kind of like floss your hands back and forth. So I'll kind of point one hand forward, one hand back, hold that for a few breaths, and then slowly kind of move it to the other one. A few breaths, and then kind of switch it to the other one. And I just find it's a really nice way to, again, just elongate all of those muscles that have been shortened while you're playing. Lastly, I always like to finish off my post-practice stretching routine with just a little lie on the floor. I'm a little pegged in here by my tripod, so I'll scoot over a bit. But if you can lie on the floor with your knees bent or prop your feet up on a sofa or a chair, and then just imagine that your body is like pancake batter that you've just splatted into a pan and it's just slowly spreading out. Feels so good, because if the goal is to rest and recover and heal our muscles, the time when your body does the most healing is when it is resting. So just staying here, lying down for a little while can do so much good for your body. It feels so nice. You don't necessarily need to do all of those stretches every single time that you practice, but this is my routine and it's been working really well for me, so I hope it works well for you too. If you want to go further to prevent injury and keep your body healthy while studying the harp, check out this video next on what to do before you practice to make sure you're warmed up properly. And for more free harp tips right to your inbox, sign up for my email newsletter, the link for which is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.